Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and we are back talking more Preacher Season 4. We're on Episode 2. Full spoilers if you haven't seen the episode. It is called The Last Supper. And just another episode that doesn't fail to disappoint in the craziness department, the absolute insanity of the world that is the Preacher universe. I freaking love it. And we just start out with a bang, right? So, God, first off, I love the way they shot this. Like it was an older 1950s movie with stop motion animation. Really cheap looking. Looks like a Harryhausen kind of set with stop motion dinosaurs and like that. And it's God. It's God looking at his creation and him like looking at his dinosaur like, oh, look at that. That's my most glorious creation I've ever made. As if, like, right there, it's the pinnacle of what he could make. And then he sees the dinosaur take a shit. And he goes, ugh. But then he sees a double rainbow, and he freaks out. He's overjoyed. He's, look, to no one in particular, a double rainbow. But then the dinosaur eats his own shit. And God can't take it. He sees this beautiful creation he made, and it's literally eating its own defecation. And I guess if you look at it in terms of I made it, you know, like how a parent will say, I brought you into this world and I can take you out. And that's what he does. He does not like what this dinosaur does, and this is enough for him to... I've seen enough. If this is what is going to happen, if you're going to eat your own shit, then I might as well just destroy it all. And so you see the asteroid, he brings the asteroid, but it looks like more like he brought fire and brimstone down on all of creation because of one thing. Which kind of makes God a pretty petty person. Or a pretty petty, omniscient being. But like I said, I mean, if he made it, he can break it, I guess is the thinking here. That it's back to the drawing board. It's time to try again. I mean, he doesn't blow up Earth or anything, but... and, you know, he doesn't completely destroy everything. He destroys the main... you know, all the dinosaurs, basically. There's, you know, other things are probably still left behind. But it kind of goes towards, like, his thinking, right? That every once in a while, everything just has to end. And if he doesn't like where it's going, he just finds a reason to end it. And that's where we're at. He sees what he does. He sees everything he doesn't like, and he just goes on. And I feel like that's a reflection of what Jesse experiences a little bit in this episode, as he's left Tulip to do whatever she needs to do. And, you know, he left Cass because Cass asked him to leave him there. So he's on his own journey. And seeing, like, his first experience is he's with this woman in a truck, and she's giving him some story about how she used to be in the porn industry. And after a couple of her co-stars got electrocuted, she decided to get out. That's what I heard. I'm sure there was something more there that I missed. But they pass a kid on the side of the road, and she keeps driving. And he's like, why don't you stop? And she's like, oh, those people basically, you know, they're no good. They're no good to him. You know. But he makes her stop. And I like this, Jesus de Sade on the side of the truck, right? So she stops the car when he uses the voice, and he gets out and he sees this kid there, and it's a kid and a dead dog. And, you know, it's the world of preachers, so you know that this isn't going to go completely the way Jesse wants. And he sees a shadow, and I actually thought he was getting jumped by somebody here, but no, it's just the kid. A plane, he's like on the, following the route of an airport, where the plane's car coming in to like Vegas or Reno or whatever. And he turns around and here's the kid with the gun on him, and it's just like, oh, okay, so the truck driver was right. This kid's a little piece of shit who's robbing people on the side of the road who believe that his dog is dead. not dead. So Jesse uses the voice. Put the gun down. And the gun goes off and kills his dog. And I feel at this point I'm basically giving commentary to what's actually happening here. So the kid's dog is dead, and Jesse feels so bad that he used the voice that caused him to drop the gun, that caused the gun to go off, that caused the dog to die. And now the kid has nothing. And so he gives the kid everything he has. Even his boots, which, I'm sorry, guilt or no guilt, the kid was robbing you. So now Jesse has to walk his happy ass down the road. And the kid's got his boots and his wallet and all the money he had. So, so the next thing up there is to talk about here is Hair Star, he's asking for surgical assistance because his ear problem is still a thing. Now, where that goes, Jesus Christ, of course that's where it goes. There's Frankie still torturing Cass. And he's basically asking him, like, why didn't you leave? You were out the door. You had your out. Why didn't you leave? And he's like, we're Irish. We never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And he talks to him about guilt. I've seen all sorts of guys do things, and it seems like you're sticking around because you feel guilty about something. There's a lot of guilt going around on this show. But I don't really feel like the only person that doesn't feel guilty is Tulip. But they also talk about their old New York stories and how, I remember I missed the 70s and the 80s back when, gangsters used to do gangster stuff. And Cass talks about the old New York stories where he saw some guy put a gun up somebody's ass and blow their brains out. And he tells Frankie, that's exactly how I'm going to kill you. So, Cass, I felt like Cass was just basically like he wanted to get out himself. He didn't want Jesse's help. Once he faced with Jesse and their old animosity comes up, he couldn't let him help him. He had to get out on his own. Like, oh, you're coming in here to help me out. Like, and again, it's all about Tulip. It's all about Jesse, the way Jesse is. And so he decided to stay. But Tulip, on the other hand, she's got other plans. She has that RPG. Like I wish she used like the old one that she made back in episode 1. But she takes an RPG to the door, and that doesn't work. And so she has to keep coming up with a plan. She's working with the guy at the Holy Bar and Grail to fix up her car. And, I'm actually kind of shocked that there's actually a good person in this show. Like, everybody seems to be very morally flexible. But this guy, he seems to be pretty cool. So, meanwhile, Cass, like a trapped animal, gnaws off his own foot so that he can get out of the cuffs. So when somebody comes in to see him, he can get the drop on them. And he does. And he gets out. And he's limping around. And apparently, I guess you're supposed to believe that his foot grows back really quick. So he sneaks into the urban blight room, which it means that that's where all the drugs are. Which I thought was really funny. Because I was trying to think what urban blight means, like, as far as torture rooms. So I forgot there's more than torture. And there's floor-to-ceiling high, really high ceilings because they're inside a mountain, all these drugs. And he takes the persona, he dresses up like this guy named Dr. Zhang, who is in charge of all this stuff. But when Cass goes to escape, when you can walk right out the door, he forgets he's in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the day, with the sun beating down. And so there's the exit. It's the second time he's almost been able to escape. And he says he forgot something because he doesn't want to, there's nowhere to go. I actually thought what was going to happen was the door was going to open and Frankie and all of them were going to be standing there, because that'd be the obvious thing, is like have somebody waiting outside the door. But no, he goes back. to the urban blight room. Basically, he just gets stoned, really, really high on cocaine, and waits for the sun to go down. But when he gets back in the elevator and he's covered in cocaine, there's Frankie and his guys in there. And while he does take care of the guys pretty well, Frankie's got like a rifle, and he does cast in here and knocks him out again. So third time, he's been almost able to escape, and this time he's caught again. So, all right. Featherstone, meanwhile, she's got that big old hard-on for Tulip. She's so into finding Tulip, she's willing to kill her own guys, as Star is always willing to kill his own people. But she's hiding, that guy's hiding her. She keeps trying to tell this guy, I'm not doing this for Jesse. He ain't my husband. He ain't coming back. She's doing this for Cassidy. And this guy, he's just very concerned about her. And we get to one of the funniest things I've seen in a while, which is, man, it was so hard to not make. He sees a guy in a camel, and he gets on the camel with the guy, and they're going across the desert to the lake to follow the plains. Oh, it's in the Middle East, not in America. I just realized that now, that they're in the Middle East, not in Reno. That's why the guy looks the way he does. Wow. I don't know why I thought they were in Nevada, but they're not. I should remember this from last week. So they're heading across the desert, and there's another guy in a camel coming up to him. And I almost feel like they're screaming for somebody to say what somebody might say, which is there's a couple of camel jockeys. They're not, okay? They're just people, but it's the first thing that popped into my head. Almost like this show is purposely laying it out there, like trying to be like as if, like, you're thinking it, or if you're thinking it, you're not as you're as bad as everybody else. And here I am. I don't think those two guys are actually camel jockeys. I don't like using that term, but it's the first thing that came into my head. And so the one doesn't like the guy because he's a Muslim and he's a different religion, and they meet up to fight, and Jesse tells them both to stop and to be friends. And the one guy, he understands English. He goes in to hug him, but the other guy doesn't understand English and shoots him. I don't know why it worked if stop fighting worked if he didn't understand English. But whatever. Yeah, whatever. Maybe that's universal. Stop is the key word, that everybody knows the word stop, apparently. He shoots the guy, but then he shoots him. The guy falls, shoots his camel in the head, and his brains go everywhere. The one camel comes down, crushes the other guy, and now they're both laying there. One's dead, the camels are dead, both. And the guy's laying there dying, and he's like, why didn't he stop? He's like, because he doesn't speak English. And so Jesse now is seeing, two people. He couldn't even get them to stop fighting. Two people from different religions from the Middle East. Again, hitting the nail pretty hard easy on the head. First you got the kid. Don't trust the kid. He trusts the kid. The kid robs him. He goes and gets involved with these two guys. He tries to stop it. Their hatred for each other can't be stopped. Now everybody's dead. Again, showing Jesse kind of like, this is the world you're trying to save. Almost like it's part of someone's plan. And wow, is this really just... I'm not going to say it's being heavy-handed. It's just being really So, Jesse's seeing bad everywhere. Seeing what God, I guess. And meanwhile, they're searching for Humperdoo. There's a search for the Messiah. They're like, hey, where you have the Messiah, you have the Holy Child. And they show these guys chasing down Humperdoos in the wild. Tyson Ritter just, ooh, ooh. Humper, they're running him down like he's like big time, like big game hunting. And they like throw a stick at him, tell him to dance, and he starts humping to it, going, ooh. And they, because it's not the correct dance or whatever, they go, it's not really him, and they shoot him. And apparently there's like this huge pile of humperdews because remember last season he let them all go, and they're just running around all over the place. Somehow they're just randomly like wild animals, just stupid wild animals walking around everywhere, just until they can find the real one. So Hairstar is telling them that they got him, but they haven't got him. And they've got all these nations around the table with sashes like they're part of the fucking Miss America contest. And New Zealand is the only one who steps up and says, starts questioning things. And they get this huge, like, over dramatic, they bring in this big crate and they open up the crate and they tell the guy they bring out a stool and they put the stool there and they tell him to get into the crate and stand in the crate, and he gets and does all this stuff, and they hand him a grenade and they tell him to get inside, and he does, and they seal it up, and he tells his last words are, someone erase my search history, as it explodes. I'm just watching this going, good Lord, is there a moment on this show that isn't just batshit crazy? And thankfully, that answer is no. There might be a moment or two, like with the scene with Tulip and the guy who's trying to help her, where it's a little bit of just dramatic character stuff where they don't do this. This is a dangerous mission. You should just wait for your husband to come back. That kind of thing. It's about the only slow parts of this whole episode. So they blow that guy up and they say blame it on Australia. Well, Jesse finds out once he gets to the airport, after he reinstates the ability for people to smoke in the airports, he finds out that his rock that he's looking for is in Australia. But he's missing his lighter. The lighter, I think, that he got from his dad. And it's still back in the truck. So he has to have the pilot take him all the way back to where the Jesus de Sade is. Or I think it's supposed to be kind of like the Marquis de Sade, except Jesus de Sade. And they go there to get the lighter. He gets it out of the truck, and they're going to leave. And he sees inside the building the little kid, or at least the pilot sees the little kid from earlier inside with some weirdo creep-looking guy who's probably going to do not too nice things to the kid. And Jesse doesn't really want to help. And the pilot's like, well, that's your job, right? You're a preacher. Isn't there some kind of code? And he gets out and leaves, and preacher goes with him. What happens here is we don't know. We don't see what happens here. Hairstar sees him on his, security system. We know that Hairstar has eyes on Jesse, that he went into this place, but we don't know what happens when he went in there. And I'm assuming they're going to show us at some point that he went in there and got the kid out and did God knows what. But because the next time we see Jesse, he's on the plane. He's the only one on the plane. Meanwhile, Tulip pulls a switch, and this was pretty obvious right from the beginning, and it's fine. It's one of those scenes where I'm fine just knowing what was going to happen, is that her friend calls in saying that she's here, like he's selling her out. We're supposed to think he sold her out, but we know he didn't. As soon as they get there, first I allowed myself to think for about a second that he turned on her. But once they got there, I realized this is all going to be a switcheroo. He's going to be in the car, leading them in one direction, while she gets into one of the white cars, because they said, somebody stole my car. The guy says it right to Featherstone, and he gets into her car. Like, somebody took my car. So you know that it's Tulip in his car, and the other guy in hers. And so they run across the desert, and they're like, fucking, those are Priuses, right? I don't know from cars, okay? But they look like Priuses, and they're having like a chase in these freaking like electric cars, and they get all surrounded by the dust that the Mustang is putting out, and she's just bouncing them around. Like they reinforce the car so that she can just push those cars around. And in the end, they play chicken. She dodges, and she tries to. Featherstone tries to chase the Mustang, and she goes, "Hold on!" And I'm like, "Wait a minute. What do you mean, hold on? You're in a Prius. You're not going anywhere." And they literally don't. They can't even make it up the incline, and the car dies. And it's revealed that when they come to help uh, get all the people that are hurt, she's put on her white suit and her blonde wig, and she is snuck inside the big old Grail fortress. This was all pretty telegraphed. This was all pretty easy to see, but it's fine. I mean, the whole car chase with the Priuses was funny enough as it is. Seeing cars get bounced around like they're nothing. I mean, come on. It wouldn't happen quite like that, but it's funny that that's what they basically are saying, that they think of these little cars as nothing. Um, but Jesse's on the plane. He sees Cass, and he's like, "I can't believe you left me there." So his guilt is bothering him. And Hairstar then, we find out, has made a ear like out of Cass's circumcisions. And so he's basically got a dick hanging on his ear. They were keeping all of them and surgically crafting an ear that ends up looking like a penis hanging off of Hairstar's head. So now he's literally a dickhead. And the whole thing goes back around to like saying what God's plan is, which is it looks like he's sitting in a trailer somewhere with a kind of whatever animal's in some cage, probably some ancient dinosaur bird. Maybe it's a baby dinosaur like the one that he killed. Maybe he made one just for himself. And he's got everything kind of laid out, including the church from season 1, and the camels, and the plane, and all this stuff laid out like a chessboard almost, just kind of just sitting on the table like he just picks things up and moves it around and it literally makes things happen. Like that there's no real free will, that he's just guiding everything towards what he wants to have happen. And that's where the episode ends, and I'm like, okay. If there's no point, if he just has it, if it's all just kind of a rigged game, then Jesse's really doing all this for nothing and he doesn't even know it yet. He's just moving along, and until somebody can stand up to whatever God's doing, then they really have no chance, in my opinion. So that's The Last Supper. I'm trying to figure out why they called it The Last Supper, but somebody in the comment section can let me know. If you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. We'll be back next week with episode 3. It is called Deviant. Hoping one of these, I think next week we actually get the Saint of Killers back, so I'm really excited to see that. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on another Preacher. Bye.